What is Flatpak exactly? I am not 100% sure, and at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. Before I descended down the rabbit hole of trying to figure out if I needed Flatpak or not, I would have probably described it as some sort of witchcraft, like they put a little tiny guy inside of your computer, and he's just hanging out in there chilling, holding your apps in his little pockets. But I understand it now. It's a user space sandboxed application runtime. But what the does that actually mean, and do I need to use the Flatpak version of Steam or not? So let's go ahead and break everything down and figure that out. User space means the app can run without needing kernel level access or modifying system files. Sandboxed means the applications run in isolation, with limited access to system resources. Application runtime means those apps use prepackaged libraries inside of that sandbox, instead of relying on system-wide dependencies. Now my goal is to figure out if one of those three things is what's causing some of my issues that I've been having running the Flatpak version of Steam. Now let's try and understand Flatpak a little bit deeper by comparing it to a software that we may already know about, called Docker. Both Flatpak and Docker use containers in some way, shape, or form, but in a very different way. Flatpak is designed for desktop applications, while Docker is designed for server applications. Now how do they isolate those apps? As I mentioned before, Flatpak uses a sandbox system, meaning apps can't modify your system files and have very limited access to your hardware and your network. Docker takes that even further. It runs the applications in a completely isolated container. Each container has its own file system, network stack, dependencies, which are completely separate from the host OS. Now how do they handle dependencies like libraries? Flatpak tries to save space by using shared runtimes. If multiple Flatpak applications need the same libraries, they'll just reuse the same runtime, so you're not installing the same thing multiple times. Docker, on the other hand, bundles every dependency inside the container. So if there are two Docker applications in two different containers that need access to the same library, it's bring your own copy. And the next comparison is network. How do they get to the internet? Flatpak applications can access the internet with no problem usually, but they can't always communicate with other devices on that local network unless you manually override that restriction. But on the other hand, each Docker container has their own network stack, just like a virtual machine, so by default that Docker container can't even talk to the host computer if you don't tell it to. So now let's dig even deeper into how Flatpak actually isolates those applications. Flatpak's sandboxing is built on three technologies: bubble wrap, portals, and runtimes. Every Flatpak app runs inside a bubble wrap sandbox. Bubble wrap creates a lockdown environment where the app thinks that it's running on a full system when it's actually not. Only the needed directories are exposed while everything else is hidden away from it. Next up is portals. How do apps interact with files, network, or hardware? There's the file portal, so instead of opening files directly, the app asks the OS to show the file in the file picker. There's the network portal, where apps don't automatically get full network access, is very restricted. The next one is runtimes. Instead of relying on your system's built-in libraries, Flatpak uses shared runtimes. A runtime is just a prepackaged set of libraries. If an app needs a runtime, Flatpak downloads it and installs it directly. Multiple apps can share the same runtime, which reduces duplication and saves space. So Flatpak versus a native install, which one's going to be better for you? First up is the application installation process. Flatpak makes it super simple to install applications, while the direct installation process will vary based on the OS that you're using. Now storage, Flatpak is going to use a lot more space due to sandboxing and bundled libraries. A native install is going to use your system-wide dependencies, so they're all going to share those same dependencies, while Flatpak is going to keep installing them themselves. If you have limited hard drive space, I suggest not using Flatpak. Now to performance. The Flatpak version of Steam has been proven to run a little bit slower than the native version install of Steam. Apparently the Flatpak version of Steam needs about a 1 to 5% performance overhead. The Flatpak version of Steam may require manual permission overrides for game controllers and fight sticks, while the native installation version of Steam is going to recognize those peripherals right away. Next up is network and remote play. As we mentioned before, the Flatpak version of Steam has restricted network access, so things like Steam Remote Play may not work out of the box and may require a lot of tweaking. So with the native installation version of Steam that has access to whatever the machine has access to, you won't really have those restrictions as far as network is concerned or remote play. So when should you use the Flatpak version of Steam? If you want an easy universal install, if you use an immutable Linux distro like SteamOS that are mostly read-only file systems, or if you really care about security and sandboxing. You should use the native version of Steam if you want better performance and compatibility, if you want to use things like Proton GE with less problems or modify your games, or if you plan on using Steam Remote Play or plan on using a lot of different peripherals. Now that I know all of this, I think I'm going to be switching from Flatpak to a native install on my gaming PC that's running Pop! OS. I'll let you know if I see any major differences, so subscribe if you want to know the outcome. If you've been having some issues with Steam that you just can't explain, maybe Flatpak is causing the problem. try switching to a native install and see if your performance improves. If you are using the Flatpak version of Steam and you have some wisdom that you want to share with your fellow Flatpak users, let them know in the comments. If you want to know what it's like to fully switch from Windows to Linux, check out this video here when I switched last year. Peace.